Hello everyone, John P.O. here with MAMECADE episode number 28. Barbarians, those lone berserkers who would not conform to the stifling constraints of society. Everyone fears their savagery and warlike tendencies until, of course, you need a hero. In 1987, video game manufacturer Taito released an ambitious title called Rastan Saga, or simply Rastan. The character styling borrowed heavily from the world's most famous barbarian, Robert E. Howard's Conan. It seems a prerequisite to being a barbarian is just bulging biceps, wild long hair, and an oversized codpiece. Although the game would go on to be a big hit for Taito, they were cautious about its release in the US and Europe, and distributed it as a conversion kit for its earlier arcade machines. The kit included all new decals, buttons, and joysticks, along with a marquee, bezel, and board that operators would have to change on the old machines. This kept costs down and orders high. Taito did not go this route in Japan, however, and released it as a dedicated cabinet. Another interesting difference was that only the Japanese version of the game gave a backstory when the game began. The US and Euro versions just simply jumped right into the game, and what a fantastic game it was. The usage of scenery, colors, and lighting effects were some of the best for the game of its time. The premise was simple: hack all your enemies until you kill the dragon and cut off its head. Along the way, you'll find useful items to power up, powerful axes, farther-reaching maces, flaming swords that shot fireballs, shields to absorb damage, and there'll be a lot of damage you'll be taking. Rastan is one of the earliest arcade games to feature blood, although it was very stylized. The beating heart meter at the bottom monitors your health as a myriad of beasts attack you. Altogether, the sharp graphics, eerie music, and sound effects made this game a classic. A year later, in 1988, Taito tried to do it again with the Japanese release of Rastan Saga 2. This time, Taito decided to give American and European audiences a backstory to go with, but they might as well not have because we were all aware of the story before.
This is all wrong. Let's see, change this to, Eternia, and, this will have to be Castle Grayskull, and, get Grayskull again over here, and in Eternia. Well, that's much better.
The sequel opted for a more cartoony feel, and many die-hard fans of the original were quickly put off by it. It's interesting to note that Taito released it in Europe as Nascar, and in the US as Nascar Warrior. I suspect that someone at Taito looked at the finished product and concluded it's a far cry from the awesomeness that was the original Rastan, and in a scramble they swapped the R and the N from the game's name to come up with Nastar instead, just as an escape clause if things got ugly. And they did get ugly. Nastar is one of the worst game sequels in arcade histories. Nearly everything that made the original so enjoyable is butchered in this game. Our hero plods around like he's wearing lead-lined boots. The animations are ultra simplistic, and the enemies, with the exceptions of a few, look like they escaped from the Mushroom Kingdom rather than a high fantasy realm. Even new weapons like Iron Claws fail in their effectiveness, and Boots of Speed are virtually worthless because of the bad level designs. Nastar should have been named Nasty. A year would go by and Taito would go on a game release blitz, introducing 12 games in 1 year alone. Battle Shark, Kadash, Champion Wrestler, Crime City, Twin Hawk, Insector X, Master of Weapon, Night Striker, Puznik, Rambo 3, Special Criminal Investigation, and World Grand Prix. After his dismal performance in Nastar, Taito shunned Rastan as he fell into a deep depression, fed on a constant supply of grog and mead. He begged for work, and eventually his pleas fell on the ears of director Takashi Murata, who gave him a shot in his new game, Champion Wrestler. Although not officially set in the Rastan universe, our hero does flex his barbaric brawn for the cheering masses under the card Miracle Rastan. A return of sorts from his former self, he looks pretty much as he did back in 1988. Overall, the game is a lot of fun with all the classic wrestling moves you would expect present, as Rastan tries to make it up to his fans, but would they forgive him? That answer would come 2 years later when, in 1991, Taito released the most ambitious Rastan game yet, Warrior Blade Rastan Saga 3. The cabinet was a behemoth double-monitor system called the Darius II Twin Screen System. It allowed for a huge horizontal playfield, and the gameplay shifted from platformer to a side-scrolling fighter. This time, Rastan is joined by 2 playable companions, a hireling named Dewey and a thief named Sophia. Each has different skills and attributes for varied play experience. The graphics have been beefed up, and after the first level you have a choice of where you'd like to proceed next, so it's not very linear. The castle, tower, ship, or palace is quite nice this time of the year. The scrolling in the game varies from left to right as well as up and down depending on what level you're on, providing a lot of different effects. Rather than having the traditional 3 lives, you have a health bar that can take quite a bit of damage before you die. But when you do die, the game is over unless you add another credit. This Rastan comes back with a vengeance, and although it's nothing like the classic 1988 game that started it all, it does redeem the series and keep the Rastan legend alive.